Hello everyone, Golden Nova here, and it has been approximately a year since I quit my day job and started going in front of a mic and saying silly dad jokes about Yu-Gi-Oh! Archetypes for a living, and I kind of wanted to do a retrospective, see where I've been, see where I am now, and answer all of your questions again, because since last time, y'all have had a lot more to say, and I'm more than happy to continue sitting in front of microphone and doing silly talky stuff. First off, tips for getting started in Yu-Gi tubing. So there is a incredible video by MBT that does a lot to lay the groundwork for what you can expect to do or need to do Yu-Gi tubing. And there is something that stuck to me rather, when he was talking about stuff, is that the bar to entry in Yu-Gi tubing is very, very low. And I have to agree with that. In Magic the Gathering, you have things like Game Nights, which is a highly produced product. They end up getting so many sponsors. These episodes are very well done. They get huge guest stars. So they make a lot of money on that one. And they make it look really good. And I'm sure there's other shows. My Magic the Gathering info is very narrow. I watch a couple of things. But when they set the bar really, really high for their top end. For Yu-Gi-Oh!, you have Team Samurai X. That's like the peak, and everyone else is just talking into a camera and doing stuff. I don't know if any of that counts as like a mid-range of like unreachable stuff, but a lot of their stuff comes down to just consistently uploading, and I think that's been a huge part in my success. I'm not exactly the biggest name in the community, I would say, cause like you could go to like a random Twitch stream, reference King Scarlet Yu-Gi-Oh, and I would guarantee you they would know him 9 out of 10 times more than like if you referenced me. But I post consistently. Not a knock against anyone in specific. King Scarlet has a day job, a very stressful one. He needs to be committing his energy to doing that. I have the luxury of being able to do this consistently, which has been great for YouTube, because YouTube cares about that kind of stuff. It cares about consistency. It wants to see you making something over and over again at the right time. So that's what you should be focusing on at first. Find a thing you can do that is repeatable ad infinitum for a long period of time that you can do that does not burn you out too quickly. If you're someone that's really good at crafting deck profiles, open up Edo Pro or Dueling Book or Yu-Gi-Oh! Omega, make your fun brews, go over them, show off some gameplay. If you can do that once or twice a week without absolutely blowing yourself out, I would start doing that, and I would make sure that the maximum amount of time you focus on that is like a week, right? Like if it takes you more than a week to produce the video, you need to hit publish and get it out there, because the biggest hurdle that I see a lot of people say, even in things like this, where people will say like, oh, well, my thing isn't going to be very good. It's not. It's terrible. Go back and look at my old stuff. I haven't unlisted any of my old videos. I don't know if that's good or bad practice, but you can see like my audio mistakes. I keep things going for too long. I'm not energetic enough. My edits right now are already very rudimentary as they are. But even back then, they were just not consistent. I hadn't figured out like a voice visually for myself yet. But that came with time. Once I got out of the rut after the first video, I sat down and was like, I'm just going to commit to making a video, and you need to commit to doing that. Maybe start out with one a week. Once again, the important part is not to overclock yourself. If you can, start small, but start consistently. And then if you find yourself having extra room when you're done, then add another day to your schedule, and that will over time build up. You're not going to find success in a day unless you like stumble on some kind of viral success, but do not go chasing that dragon. If you don't find it, that's not a failure on your part. You will only know if it's a failure if you've done it for 6 or 7 months and you are just going nowhere. Maybe, and I don't know a good time frame, right? Because I've been doing this for a while and I haven't double checked to see when stuff took off. But I would definitely make sure that when you do it, you're in it for the long haul. You are committed to not seeing good results for a good 6 or 7 month period. Yeah. Someone also asked what to do if you have a medium-sized budget. If you have some money to put into a YouTube channel, just starting out, once you get monetized, don't expect to be, you know, getting money back out of it. And even once you are monetized, it'll take a while to get the kind of watch time to give you a substantial budget for stuff. But if you have some money set aside, if you don't have artistic skills yourself, find someone on Twitter who makes banner ads. I don't know, just banners for like your YouTube. Make a good profile picture that stands out and that really projects you as the kind of like the vision that you want everyone to see of you. Banner for Twitter. If you plan on streaming, making sure that you have if you can find some assets that you can use to make your stream look good, that would be a good place to put your money too, because you need to be able to look good at people at a glance. So yeah, so basically, if you have money, focus on making a good impression, and then also making sure that your mic equipment is above sounding really scratchy and stuff. This is a, this Yeti mic I've been using since I started. This has not changed. I hardly do any audio editing, and I'm pretty sure no one's complained about my audio so far. I think it's pretty good, if not serviceable, and this is a little over $100. That's a lot outside of a lot of people's price ranges, I admit. The MBT video has suggestions for what I believe are cheaper, and still work really well. I believe you need to do some Audacity tweaking, but once again, check the video. Trust his information over mine. He has a lot more experience on this than I do, and he's far more successful. But if you have some money, get your visuals looking good, and then get your audio looking good, because boy howdy, no one is going to want to sit around and listen to a video that sounds just scrankly and crunchy. It is a bad experience. Which lore would you use for a D&D setting? They listed out a lot of, like, the big ticket ones, like World Legacy, Dual Terminal, Albaz. Actually, one that I've been cooking around in my head that I think would be really interesting, especially if you were looking for a long-term campaign, would be what I've dubbed the Magical Nations, setting. It's not official, but they haven't really found a conjoining term for Endymion, Witchcrafters, and, Magistus and Spellbook, all of those. They haven't found like a conjoining name for all of that, so I just call it Magical Nations, because if you read the stuff in the perfect rulebooks, it kind of sounds a little, you know, like political machinations of nations things. There's like, you could set up backgrounds as like a scholar in La Maison. You can set up yourself as like an enforcer for Endymion's magic police. You can be a craftsperson with, you know, the Witchcrafter Guild, or any number of like smaller guilds in that area. All kinds of stuff. And if you want to lean into some kind of like Yu-Gi-Oh multiversal thing, I think magicians and spellcasters would be great conduits for making dimensional portals to other places. So you could bring in a bunch of other different, like if you wanted to, well, Buster Blader already kind of mixes in with the whole spell counter thing, and they're mixed with a Dark Magician. But if you wanted to like make a campaign set in like, I don't know, like Noble Knights. If you wanted to bring Noble Knights in, you could just say like, hey, we found a dimension where these shining knights of justice are found, and we have to do X, Y, and Z. So I think the Endymion Spellbook Prophecy is a good place to start off, and you can branch very well from those directions. Do you have any stories of people with disabilities playing Yu-Gi-Oh at the game shop you've talked about in the past? Also, what would you do to make Yu-Gi-Oh more accessible for people with disabilities, either for the video games, the TCG, etc.? Okay, so yeah, I've talked about in the past that I used to do judging work for a comic book store in my area. I don't know if I've mentioned it beforehand, but to try to prevent some level of doxing, I'm going to avoid names and places for the sake of the story. But yes, while I was doing judging, there was a group of people that would come in, and one of the people with them had mobility issues and sight issues. They were, I believe, legally blind. So they needed to have a lot of assistance move from place to place. So on top of making sure that like table spaces were set up wide enough to help facilitate that, and helping to make sure that people that they were able to get to their place unobstructed. They also had this cool device. I believe it was I don't think it was their phone. It might have been an app on a phone actually. But it was an electronic device that was like a microscope. It would or a magnifying glass would be more precise. It would get images, right? They would scan it over a card. It would display it larger on the screen. And there might have also been like a way it was displayed that made it easier for them to see it. But that was something that they used to help read cards. And I think that's really cool. I think that was great they were able to use that. But to my understanding, the Yu-Gi-Oh policy document is very strict about what you can bring to the table. Anyone knows that, like, you can't bring, like, cards that are other cards and treat them like tokens or something. Like, you can't do that. Because it's too easy to, like, swap cards around and be all like, oh, that was really mine, that kind of stuff. But there's also, like, things like electronic devices. You're not allowed to, like, have your headphones in or, like, use your phone for stuff. I think the most they let you get away with is a calculator, but even that I'm not entirely sure of. Once again, judges down below. But I don't believe that the rules documents have any concessions for players with disabilities. Though that kind of sucks, it would require that, like, tournament organizers are able to, like, keep, like, a sheet of, like, okay, we have these players using this is what they're allowed to do. Would they require, like, documentation to, like, prove they needed it? There's a bunch of logistic stuff there that would make it a lot more difficult to accommodate people with disabilities, but they should still do it, because it's a very fun thing for people to play that doesn't require a lot of physical activity to do, and all it requires is a little extra, like, technological help so that they can play on the level of everyone else. I've heard it argued sometimes that it's like, well, why doesn't the opponent just explain what all the cards do? And to that I would say, well, maliciously or not, your opponent might not give you 100% of the knowledge you're looking for, so relying entirely on your opponent to give you an accurate summation of what their cards do, I wouldn't recommend that to people who do not have any disabilities. I would always have you read your opponent's cards so you understand what they're doing, and some people, they just don't learn that way. That's not just how their head is wired. Once again, that's not even like if you're if you have disabilities. Sometimes that's just not how you intake information. So sometimes you have to look at a card and learn what it does. And I think that in regards to how to make it more accessible, I think that there should be, if there's not already, once again, tell me down below. If I'm ignorant about this, I'd like to be wrong. I think there needs to be more people in charge whose job it is to focus on the accessibility of the game. I think there needs to be a section in the rules policy document that's like, hey, for players with disabilities and accommodations, here's like a checklist of things. This is what they're likely to need. These are what to keep a lookout. If you have players complaining about stuff like this, here's like a response to let them know, like, this is what's being taken care of, this is what we're doing to make sure that there isn't anything like cheating going on, all that kind of stuff. And I would add on top of that this is the these are the opinions and ideas of a largely not disabled person. In fact, I would almost say that I don't even know why I'm saying largely. I'm pretty mobile, so my opinion on the matter should not be taken as the end point, right? The people who are who work with those disabilities, who live with those disabilities, should be the ones to spearhead those suggestions and those changes. So once again, another thing that I ask of the comments, if you have difficulty with Yu-Gi-Oh! And you feel like it's something that Yu-Gi-Oh! Could accommodate, but the system itself isn't making strides to do so, let us know in the comments, because I would like to know what it is that I could see around me that I could advocate for, because the more we talk about it and the more we advocate for it, the more chances we can see it being implemented. What made you interested in Gladiator Beasts? Well, when I was getting back into the game in early high school, Gladiator's Assault was the set that was coming out around that time. That means that my first deck that I put together with those cards was Cloudians, and they sucked butts. Eventually, I collected enough Gladiator's Assault packs and things from associated sets around that to make a full Gladiator Beast deck, and it just stuck. Being able to hit things and then get bonuses for hitting the things was great. I just like those mechanics. I've heard it be told that the battle phase has been getting less and less important in Yu-Gi-Oh! I have to agree, and that's why Gladiator Beasts have largely either been left to decay in the sands of time, or have had to adapt with a lot more combo-focused cards that make the battle phase less relevant, which kind of sucks. But that was my that was how I started enjoying Gladiator Beasts. Why do they call it oven when you oven the cold food of out hot eat the food? No. Would love to know how you were able to make that jump. It's something I'd love to do. I'm a single income, fully independent person, and sometimes it feels impossible. I also don't want to be aggressive with monetization either. Okay, so this is the part of the video where I own up to all the advantages that I had that made it possible to do this in the first place. So first off, as a white cis dude, I already won the genetic lottery on that one, so I get a lot of instant credibility in the nerd space just because of how I am, essentially. I don't doubt that that helped with my career here in some ways, just because people looked at it instantly and be all like, ah, yes, another one of the nerd folk who have all of the visual indicators. So you will be one of the members of the Pantheon, kind of deal. So that's I attribute some of my success just to that, just being all those attributes. Another thing that I am is polyamorous, though. I don't talk about it a lot in the videos because I don't want to make it like I don't want to turn it into like I don't know, like a brand thing. I don't know. Not like a mark on anyone who like does that or something. I just didn't. My partners are not like, they didn't buy into being part of this channel, so I'm not trying to do that. But that does mean that I live in a household where all the bills are split 3 ways. So a lot of the things I have to pay for my upkeep are a lot lower than they would be if I was if I was renting my own apartment for myself, buying all of my own groceries for me, all that kind of stuff. If I had to do that now, if I got dumped and had to move into like a single apartment, I would have to find a job because I do not make enough to support just myself. Also, I live in Texas, which is, a lot of red flags by itself, but to my understanding, the housing market is a lot cheaper than other places in the country, so the cost of living is effectively a lot smaller. That doesn't mean I didn't have to do anything differently, though. I did have to take a massive pay cut from my old job. I was making about $2,000 a month. God, I think it was 2,000. I think it was, yeah, if it was 4,000 a month, there was no way. Yeah, I think it was 2,000 a month, 1,000 each pay period. Went to my bank account. Now, not when I left, but now I make about $1,500 in ad revenue and about $500 in Patreon. So that's about $2,000. The issue is that the income I get now is not taxed. So I'm still not making as much as when I was doing my full-time job. Because a lot of that has to be squirreled away in a savings account until the new year comes around and I have to pay a lot of that money back to the government. So there's a lot of like budgeting that I have to do. And, to touch lightly on a topic we talked about a little bit ago, I don't have any special medicine that I have to buy. I don't have any dietary restrictions. I can basically, I have a car, so I can move and eat as I need to do stuff. So I am not required to like make sure I buy the extra expensive gluten-free stuff or make sure I have money every month to afford insulin or something. There's a lot of advantages that I have that allowed me to do this on a reduced budget, and I am immensely thankful to everyone who allowed that to happen. I don't want to have any of this come up as like a I hope it doesn't sound like I'm bragging. What I want to put out there is that I have a lot of these advantages that helped make it happen, that are just kind of things in my life, and that it would probably be more difficult for everyone else because they don't have those advantages. So I hope that people can keep that in mind. But I felt like I had to at the time for a reason that a later question will, I believe, get into. So we'll save that for later. As for the monetization thing, I feel that was like a thing that I didn't do whenever I had a full-time job because I didn't need the money to stay afloat. So I'm like, well, I don't need to ask people for money. But when it happened, it was that or go back to working, and I didn't want to do that. This was at the height of it was 2021, so there was still a pandemic going on, but it was during that time where people were trying to be all like, oh, I guess it's all over, you can go back to work now and go out there. So but that was garbage, so I didn't want to leave the house to go do that, so my only other option was to ask people for money to do stuff. Since then, I don't think that I've aggressively been monetizing things. I think the only thing that's behind the paywall is, of course, the early access to videos, which I think is always a fun reward for something, getting to see something before anyone else. You don't have to wait. You just know, like, hey, I can just click the button and I can get it. And then, of course, there's the voting. There are certainly other things that I could be doing, of course, but what made me feel better about doing that was I'm gonna get the name of the book here really quickly, just so that I have this out here. Yeah. So lead singer of the Dresden Dolls, Amanda Palmer, wrote a book a while ago called The Art of Asking, and it's all about her journey as being like an independent music artist and having to live a lot on the charity and generosity of others while pursuing that career. And the main takeaway, I of course would encourage you to read the book because it's very beautifully written. It's the source material that helped me be okay with it. But the core idea that I try to take away with every time is people who come to my videos and watch them are walking away with something. If they enjoyed it a little bit, I gave them something a little bit to enjoy. If they enjoyed it a lot, they enjoyed it a lot. I gave of myself time and energy to entertain people. That being said, it is okay to ask for something in return. You're not demanding it. I haven't, put my videos under like specific paywalls. Like, you're not allowed to ever see this unless you put money in my hat. But putting the hat out there and saying like, hey, if you appreciated it, I would appreciate it if you helped me out. And without being like, just being concise with it. Just say, like, this is what I do for a living. If you want to support me and if you want to see more of it, I would appreciate a little extra money to help keep this consistent, to help keep my life stable. I think she puts it way, like, it's a fair trade. At the very least, they can listen to you ask. They're not obligated to give, but at the very least, they can listen to you ask for it. So that would be my advice. Would be to read the book, but if you can't read the book, try to remember that if you are making a thing, if you are making art, which I would argue that if you're Yugi-tubing, you're making art in some way or another, it is okay to ask for them to help you to keep doing what you do. Because if they like it, there's a good chance that they have an extra couple dollars that they would love to spend to help keep it going. Not everyone can do it. Like if you compare the number of like if you look at the end of like an MBT video or the beginning of a SEMO video, you will see a whole bunch of patrons, like a huge wall of them. But if you compare that number to the views any of those videos make, it's paltry. Very few people will have the ability or the motivation to financially help you, but it is still worth asking because you might find the ones that will and are happy to do so. That's the goal. Hardest step in moving to part-time. The budgeting, really. Whenever I was making full-time money on top of getting money off of YouTube, it was nice to know that I could spend a little extra money to eat a little better. Now, you gotta check the income, you gotta eat the ramen, you gotta check your gas usage, all that kind of stuff. The budgeting is what really hits, and a lot of the time I fall off, right? Because I'm used to a particular way of living that I'm not allowed to do until all of this gets really, really profitable. Until I can make the amount of money I was making before, an amount that's comparable to a 9 to 5 before taxes come out. Budgeting is kind of the biggest thing. There's a lot you have to change about your life whenever you decide to take like a 25 to 30% cut in pay. What event molded your ideologies and beliefs / morals the most? Man. I have a terrible long-term memory, so I do not know a specific moment in my life. I do know that throughout high school, I was big into the whole new atheist movement. Big amazing atheist watcher, big Thunderfoot watcher, I believe. And I fell off at some point afterwards, and I don't know what the specifics were. I remember being on that borderline for a while of like when was it when Gamer I forget exactly when the dates of like when Gamergate happened, but I do remember that there was a lot of complaining about feminists from like the new atheist sphere at the time, and there was like a time when that was happening where I'm all like, yeah, they gotta stop complaining about this. It's the 2000s, we've advanced past this. You're acting like this because you don't like how things have changed, you don't like the responsibilities and all of that. But I think the chaos string that brought me to this reality, that I had enough open-mindedness to like, you know, listen to the other side enough to realize eventually, it wasn't a immediate change, eventually that I think I went from like you know, maybe they're being whiny about this, but maybe they have a point, and maybe they could calm down a little bit, you know, maybe see both sides here, maybe listen to what the new atheist people have to say about it, until eventually being all like, no, there's way more like important shit to be focusing on. The fact that you are focusing on like making fun of women, or like criticizing everything they do is really suspicious. And then you look at like the bigger picture and you go, ah, this is a cottage industry of uh, outrage to get attention. And actually, it sucks and it's dumb. So yeah, I unfortunately don't have like a specific moment I can think of, but I did go through like a pipeline journey of slowly like decoupling myself from that. And like the funny thing is that I always considered myself a leftist the entire time. So, like, warning out there for everyone else who has had that experience or is currently going through it, you can totally feel like you're a progressive person and still have all of those, you know, very misogynistic and transphobic thoughts. Do your best to examine what it is that you believe in, what you think is right, and do your best to figure out another side of it, you know? I think it's very important. You'll learn a lot more about the world around you and yourself if you just give yourself the time to question what you believe in or what you hold as your truths. Top 5 most kissable heroes. Okay, this is a rough one, right? Because the kiss is a very versatile form of affection. You can give a smooch on the forehead as like a caring protector role. You can give a cute little smooch on the cheek. It's very innocent. My kiss I'm gonna go for is a kiss on the lips, give a little smooch, no tongue action, but just like a nice kiss, like a nice pillowy kiss. So, this does mean that the heroes on this list need to have lips, so that automatically crosses off all of the masked heroes because you don't get to see their face, so we can't count any of that. And that also unfortunately means any version of Neos is off the list, but I think we'll all agree that elemental hero Neos has better assets. So, honorable mention goes to Destiny and Dragoon. Technically not a hero card, but it uses heroes as fusions. I get to make the rules here. They look just like a daddy, but they've got that big dragon face, so it's difficult to lean in. They have the big helmet. They would have made it onto the list if not for the fact they weren't a hero card. Number 5, Elemental Hero Wildheart. Perfectly acceptable kisses from this guy. Also some nice embrace game with the great frame. Number 4, Elemental Hero Lady Heat. Just a cutie. She looks like you have a nice little kiss. Number 3, Evil Hero Inferno Wing. I do love a bad girl. Number 2, Destiny Hero Destroyer Phoenix Enforcer. I love a bad boy. Number 1, Destiny Hero Denier. You look at this. You look at them and tell me they don't have the swag. They've got some kiss game going on right there. They've got a bit of a visor there, so all you're focusing on is just like that mischievous, coy little grin. Favorite archetype or favorite 3 archetypes? Yeah, picking like my favorite archetype at any given time is like infinitely difficult because I have like 3 or 4 at any given moment that are like my favorite. My first one right now is Madolche, but below that we've got like Gladiator Beasts and Deskbots. So right now that's kind of like my my top 3 ranked in relative order of liking. Which lore gets a video game? It's the Albaz one. It's like most comparable to like Dark Souls. The dual terminal one might make a cool open world MMO, I think, with a bunch of different factions. But Albaz has a stronger focus for like a single player narrative game. How much were you making off content before you were comfortable going full time? Okay, so I looked back at the data at the time, and between ad revenue and Patreon, I was making about 900. So at that point, that was like less than half of what I was making beforehand. But there was all the things that I said beforehand that made it a lot easier to make that decision. But to be fair, there were two big complications that or rather the one big complication that made it so I just could not go back to regular work, or rather I chose to risk it on this rather than going to regular work. And that was that my job at the time was doing the whole, well, guess the pandemic is under control. I guess we can come back to the office to improve our communication, because that's what was important. Risking everyone's health and safety so that you could sit in the same boardroom together and, know that you were lording over people instead of risking that they were doing some webcam stuff. Yeah, real good stuff. So yeah, I was working from home up till that point, and then they got really pushy about people coming back into the office, and I'm like, no, I live with two other people. I can't risk infecting them every time I go off because one person wants to be irresponsible about it. I've already got this going on. I have the blessings of everyone at home to give this a shot. If it doesn't work out, I'll have to try and find another job somewhere. But for now, let's give this YouTube thing a try, put more effort into it, and see if we can make this feasible. And thankfully, it did. I'm one of the lucky few in that regard. I can't imagine what, like, 3 or 4... I can't imagine I'm the only one that had that experience. There's 3 or 4 other people out there who were not as fortunate, and my heart goes out to that. So, once again, huge thanks to everyone out there for allowing me to do this. Least favorite archetype you've made a video for? That's actually a tough one. I don't keep in mind a lot of the things that I didn't enjoy. Yeah, I'm scanning through this, and like there might have been stuff that happened at the time that made it like, difficult or not very fun, but I'm not looking at anything and being all like, oh, that was terrible. So I guess the de facto answer is security force, because I had to say nice things about cops. Favorite you haven't made a video on? Ooh, that's God, I've covered a lot of my favorites already. Gladbeasts have a video, Six Camps have a video, Madolches, Despots kind of have a video. So I think Cloudian. We haven't done Cloudian yet. They do have a soft spot in my heart. Out of all the archetypes I haven't done yet that would be my favorite to do, it's got to be those little puffballs. Earliest Yu-Gi-Oh memory, and the fondest. Earliest was getting the Yugi and Kaiba structure decks, or starter decks at the time, way back in 2002. Getting to play some rounds with my sister. We were discovering Yu-Gi-Oh for the first time. We had no idea how to wrap our heads around the rule books. There was a lot of stuff we made up. Absolutely a huge ball. Fondest Yu-Gi-Oh memory, I go into this more in depth in another video, but it was the time when like I went back to originals with a Blackwing deck, right after Black Whirlwind was unlimited, so I thought that was like the big meta pick. I can run the tables with that. Didn't do very well, of course, because power creep exists. The deck was stolen, and then a group of my friends did what they could to wrestle together a Madolche deck for me. And that is like one of the main reasons why I even played Madolche in the first place, because I was like, I don't know how this deck works. This deck looks silly. Your cards go back to the graveyard. You can't even do anything with those. All the other archetypes love having things in the graveyard. How do you play that? And that's how I got exposed to it, and now that's why it's one of my favorite decks. On top of being fun to play, it has a lot of good memories attached to it. Probably one of the most Yu-Gi-Oh moments in real life has happened. Not as like a in the card game, but rather like the spirit of camaraderie and friendship. Did you know that if you click the link below, you can support Golden Nova on Patreon, which allows you special perks such as monthly polls for what videos you want to see, day-early videos, YDK files, and more? Oh yeah, and how have your recent sponsorships been? Wow, I did not know that. It's actually incredible the amazing things you can get with a Patreon pledge to Golden Nova Yu-Gi-Oh! The sponsorship things, in all honesty, and God, if advertisers have found a way to get to this point in the video and pay attention to data mine information, then, good on you. You deserve to know. Yeah, sponsorships, not super good at them. I've looked at the metrics. My endorsement does not seem to mean very much to, insofar as motivating people to buy product using the link down below in the description. But, that's, I own a lot of that. One of my older jobs right out of high school was I worked at Best Buy, and I eventually worked in the gaming department when Best Buy was like moving to work, like push into that space, and they made me one of the floor people there. And my upselling skills absolutely terrible. I had a lot of cynicism already about stuff that corporations were doing, so my heart really wasn't in it. So I've never really been good at selling people on things. So that makes a lot of sense. Do you have plans to do more dual terminal or card lore videos in general? Yes and no. Yes, insofar as whenever a Kshatriy, or I guess not Kshatriy law, what's that guy's name? He's the joke. Vsauce. When a new Vsauce archetype comes up, I cover it now that there's enough there to like actually make a story out of, so I like covering that. When Albaz stuff comes out, of course I cover that. I also get to do new like explain video on top of that too. The dual terminal stuff is a lot more difficult, right? Because on top of it, not doing as good view-wise, it takes a lot more effort, and that's a bad combination for someone who does this for a living. And you're gonna hear me talk about this a lot in the video, but it's a reality of the situation. Every video that gets put on the channel is not just a piece of entertainment for, people at home to enjoy. It also represents a paycheck that I get. And how well it does determines how much of that I get. And I'm already not exactly making a comfortable living off of what I do here. So when I put in 3 times the effort to make an original script, make it interesting, fill in some gaps, make it more narratively fulfilling, bring in people to do voice work, even just setting up the scenes and finding appropriate card art and staging like the camera pans. All of that takes a ton of effort, and for that to get like half of the views of an explained video is very upsetting. And that is like a side question that I didn't get here, but happens in a lot of these videos, is why are you talking about the lore as the same time as when you're explaining a video? Why can't you just talk about them in separate videos? Because it doesn't get me the views. And unfortunate reality is that I kind of have to put in the delicious fruity dessert of lore into explaining a video, because that's what attracts the most people to my channel. So you can always expect eventually to get a lore video about any ongoing lore archetypes that are going on right now, because it usually ties into people wondering how the decks work. But there is kind of a schedule for that, right? I don't cover any of those. I don't even start scripting them until the entire list is spoiled, because I don't want to miss anything out of that set. I'll be okay with missing future releases because legacy support happens. But when it comes to, like, if I review something now and then something comes out a week afterwards with a spoiler, that kind of sucks, right? It becomes almost immediately obsolete. I want it to be a month or 2 old before it becomes obsolete. And on top of that, I also I also schedule out all the videos I do a month in advance. Like, for instance, right now, the month of October, I have everything from the 1st to the 31st all mapped out, when it's coming out, when I need to have certain things done. That means that because I'm not script writing any of the lore stuff until it drops, I'm not going to even look at Darkwing Blast stuff, no, Photon Hypernova stuff, until the 15th. But by that point, we still have 2 weeks of October to go through, so you can expect it early the next month when those things happen. Generally, that's when you can see lore from that. When it comes to dual terminal lore, you're going to have to be a bit more patient on that one. I love doing it. I'm trying to cook up what I want to do for the next episode, which would be episode 0. of the dual terminal storyline, because there's a whole prologue involving the ice barrier that we're going to get into that leads into stuff in Age 2 with the Gishkis and the Gem Knights and all that. It's really cool, but once again, I don't just want to say words and put them onto a video and just ship it out. There's things that I have in my brain that I want to do to make it even cooler, but it requires the extra effort, which isn't really going to pay off monetarily. So if I ever need to push something back, the dual terminal stuff happens. You can help with this by going down to the description and clicking the link and signing up and pledging to Golden Nova Yu-Gi-Oh's Patreon, because if I make enough money off of Patreon to not have to worry about how videos do, I could take as much time as I want on these videos and do them whenever. But until such times, it's just gonna have to be until other people decide to pitch in to help make sure that I can do these videos without having to worry that I'm not going to be able to eat next month. It sucks, but that's the reality of it. How do you feel knowing that you've helped with creating a small community, even including some that have decided to learn how to play, like me? It feels incredible. I expected that I would be a good resource for people to learn stuff, but to know that that has led to people, congregating on the Discord, having some inside jokes about stuff from progression polls, or how I used to have double takes in videos and still sometimes do, stream quirks, it's not a Nova stream unless that kind of stuff. It's actually really cool, and every time I hear someone say, like, I'm getting into Yu-Gi-Oh because of you, I played a while ago, your videos have really helped me get back into things, it's legitimately heartwarming. And it means a lot. I'm so glad that I could make a difference in people and they want to form a community around that. It's mind-blowing and heartwarming all at the same time. Favorite lore archetype? Springans, folks. I love those little goobers. You have soot people from Spirited Away. You put them in missiles. They love shooting themselves at things and exploding, getting into a different machine and doing it all over again. Spriggans are... I love them. I love them so much. You can put to 3 any card on the F and L list, but a card you love just as much must swap places with it. Would you make the trade? If so, with which cards? Man, I couldn't say so. Like, there's nothing on the list that I care to get off the list, except for, like, Meow Meow Mew. But I understand why it's on the list. I can understand, so I don't think I would take the trade. But if I had to sacrifice, Madolche Queen Tiramisu to it, I would. Were you inspired by Rank 10 Yu-Gi-Oh? Okay, this is a comment that I would get a lot starting out. And the funny thing is that I knew that Rada existed, had no clue what their video format was. I don't think I got through a few minutes of any of their videos, and those have skits at the beginning, so I don't think I really knew exactly what they did. I guess the term Archetype Archive was around, but, like, I didn't know what that entailed. Then I got all the comparisons, and then I looked, and it's like, yeah, I am basically a C-grade Rada that actually posts on schedule. So, I guess I wasn't, but, simultaneous discovery is a thing. Favorite color, word, and number? Red, Goober, 5. How do you handle your fridge? No, things go in when I need them to, and they come out when I want to eat them. What changes has your content undergone as a result of trial and error? MBT mentioned in his beginner's guide that you should adjust based on what people click on, so I'm curious how this has affected your output. So this is kind of wild to me, right? Of course this has helped people. I'm not saying that this is bad advice. I'm just saying that I haven't found, I haven't run into the time where that's helped me, right? Like, when I first started, the idea of the channel was to do an explained video, play tell everyone how each card works out, and then I would pair that with a field test. So each week I would script out a video, talk about it, explain it, put it out there, and then I would farm replays and then do field test, which was basically 10-minute testing. I didn't go into the cards because that's what the explained video was for. I would do dual commentary and talk about I did these are what's good about it, these are what's bad about it. It was about the most blatant 10-minute testing ripoff ever. And it was terrible. It was very bad. Not only were the views not working, the recording is difficult. It turns out if you try to record gameplay at the same time as it's happening on Edo Pro, which is at a breakneck pace, you have a difficult time of it. I don't know how MBT does it. It's got something to do with his magical theater kid, improv, debate, energy. I could not do it without screaming my head off about how frustrated I was that I would trip over my own lines. So that didn't work. So it turned into just 2 explained videos a week, and I would play them on stream just as a way to show them off live, and that's how I got people into the streams. So I guess technically I pivoted towards doing more of one thing that was getting attention and dropping off one of those things. No other change has done very well. Things like Escape the Vault are fun to do, and they do alright, but you can't really make a series off of things on the ban list that are unfair to be there, when you don't really feel like a lot of changes have to happen to it. Dream Theme was fun, but that requires, the way I want to do it would require me to keep paying artists to do things, and then coming up with new cards, and that's a whole custom card thing that I do want to kind of get back into. I only did a single one, but suffice it to say, the one episode wasn't super paying back the dividends of me hiring the artists to make the card art for them. When trying to do, like, standalone lore stuff, we're talking about things, it's what I'm known for, and the people who like it really like it. Once again, not a lot of views come in whenever I talk about that kind of stuff by itself. So... And I don't know what else to pivot to, because progression polls is a largely different thing. And I've kept doing it because the people who like it really like it, but, you know, if push came to shove, that would have to be the thing I'd have to pivot away from, because as far as things my audience wants to see, progression polls is not one of them. But I haven't done it yet. I don't know, because I don't want to cut off a series with a friend that's been with me for a year of doing YugiTube stuff. And it's just heckin' fun to do. I think it's a fun format. At this point, the only other thing that I could think of to do to pivot towards would be, like, making stream highlights, since I've been streaming more often. But that is also, like, a huge time investment for me, on top of also scripting and recording other videos. Thank God I have editors to do that work on the back end now for doing the last leg of that journey. And maybe if I get another editor on board that can do the stream highlights, and those, you know, pay back what I put in, we might see more of those. But for now, I don't know. I don't really know what I would pivot towards elsewise that would gain more viewership. I realize that it's vastly different than the content that's being consumed nowadays. A lot of things that are in the higher echelons of Yugi tubing are effectively stream highlights. A lot of things that are done for videos are being recorded while they're streaming, and unfortunately, while it was fun to have a chat writes an explained video stream and recording it in front of everyone, it's not exactly engaging for stream, because it's just my face sitting on screen typing stuff out. This has been a long ramble to say I don't know what I would pivot towards. I don't know what it is my audience sees in me that they would like to see that I'm not already doing. If you are someone who is vocal about that, once again, get in the comments and let me know what you would like to see, and I'll see if I can experiment on it. Would you rather fight 1 Trish-sized Swap Frog or 50 Swap Frog-sized Trishulas? So, Yu-Gi-Oh! Does not make a distinction between the size of a monster and its power. Muscle Medic, I believe, is about as strong as a kaiju, so, size doesn't really matter. So that, I assume, would mean that Dupe Frog would maintain their stats, while the Trishulas would also maintain their stats. And those are, what, 2,700 attack? 50 of those things? No. The giant Dupe Frog might seem more intimidating, but they're probably like a balloon. I can, like, punch them and then they'll deflate. So I'm going with the Trish-sized Dupe Frog. Lavitz or Albert? You would make me choose between my children? Shame on you. Kit or Ecclesia? You would make me choose between my children? Shame on you. But it's Kit. Favorite card based on lore implications / where it fits in the story? Gotta be Avita. Zephyra Metaltron is very clearly a combination of the Draco Slayer and the Dual Terminal storyline. Zephyra is It's found nowhere else but Duel Terminal, and the term Metaltron is found nowhere else but the Draco Slayer storyline, and it's one of the big true Draco monsters. It's wild, but it doesn't explain anything about the connection about where they came from. Avita is made of Cliffort parts. I am. Tell me more. Tell me more, Konami. I am tired of you hinting at this. Tell me how all the archetypes connect. Stop being coy with me. Where did they come from? Concerns about digital delivery in regards to video games. Yeah, that's a big topic. So, the advent of digital distribution has been great for indie games. A big issue with physical distribution, of course, is packaging them up and finding a place to store the physical copies before they're sent out, where you make the physical copies. If you're selling at a retailer, you have to get them to buy copies and put them on store shelves. And if you're selling them directly, you have to pay people to ship things directly to people. Absolutely awful for people on a small scale. You can hardly do that. In the age of digital distribution, almost all of that has been cut out. I'm not an expert, but it feels like a lot of that is no longer an issue. You still, of course, have to advertise your game so that it's out there, whether by word of mouth or you buy banner ads or all of that. You still have to put in the time to make the darn thing. But, it's good for indie developers to have the option to just say, hey, copy this, pay me some money so that I can pay my team. Here's a file I copied over through a cable that reaches from New York to California in a couple of minutes on a slow internet speed. That's wild. The issues, though, are on the, AAA big side. Now, technically, and I believe you can see this on a lot of your game discs or something on your boxes, you don't even own those games. Like, even the old ones, I believe, all come with licenses. Like, this is a license from the developer to play this program. If you go against our terms of services, we have every right to come into your house and kick your teeth in and take the game away, that kind of stuff. But you couldn't really enforce that on a PS1 disc. You couldn't enforce it on an N64 cartridge. It wasn't happening. But now, companies have a little finger inside your console all the time, monitoring what you're doing, and if they don't like it, they can take it away. And even if you do nothing wrong, someone in Blizzard can decide that Overwatch needs a new paint job, and they can just undo the entire version of the game that was beforehand and replace it with something else, and it didn't get a say in it. There's no archival on that. You don't get to go back and play Overwatch Classic until someone at Blizzard decided, hey, you know what? World of Warcraft Classic was great. Let's do that all again, and let's sell it back to people. I have feelings about these things. So, in short, the archival of gigantic games from corporations fucking sucks. It's terrible, and there's so many games that you... Like what? There was a long time where you couldn't play the Scott Pilgrim game. That's like the big thing. It's not available on any distribution site. And of course, the rights holders have no reason to let it go for free. They don't have any incentive to do that. They can just keep it wrapped up until they can resell it again. It's garbage, and it sucks. So as good... And I wouldn't take it back. It's done, like I said, wonders for indie developers, and that's who I care about right now. But, for people who care about big tentpole releases that can get, dorked over at any given time, it sucks. It fucking sucks. And the fact that no one's incentivized to archive, older versions of a game to let you play those versions, or even just archiving games that are not going to be available once backwards compatibility is dropped from things and there's nothing to access for it, it bites. It sucks. I don't have a solution for this, except, remove the profit motive, but, that's a conversation for all my communists out there, and, that's beyond the purview of this video. You got that MF thing on them? What did they mean by this? Worst and best fast food restaurant. Okay, so I'm re-recording this section because my go-to answer is always Whataburger, and I think it's good, but it's wrong. It's objectively wrong. I don't know why it's the first thing that crops up in top of my head. The actual answer for the best fast food chain is Brahms. It's great, food is delicious, pretty cheap, and they've got this great frozen yogurt twist cone, and instead of feeling like a fat slob every time I eat like actual ice cream, it's the only dessert, the frozen yogurt, that I feel refreshed after eating it. It's so good. Brahms is 100%. Worst, I mean, I could stomach a Burger King. I wouldn't say it's bad necessarily, but it's always on the bottom of my list of places that I want to have fast food from. And if anyone out there goes like, oh, well, this is so regional chain, don't, because if it's not in the center, if it's not in Texas, I don't know about it, okay? So, I don't want to see no sassy comments about that, capiche? Normal summon Alistair in every deck, or roll a dice every time someone says danger. Easy, normal summon Alistair. I love it. It's great. Have you seen that new alt art? That thing is fire! Favorite archetype specific mechanic? Okay, so I think Glad Beasts are really the only deck that, like, cares about battling and then doing the whole shuffling tag out thing. Contact fusing is not a specific Gladiator Beast mechanic. Neos can attest to that. And basically a ton of other contact fusions that have come out since then. Yeah, it's got to be the Glad Beasts battle tag mechanic. I love it. How do I summon High Speed Droid Kite Drake? Okay, so we'll keep this fairly simple. A regular synchro summon happens whenever you have a tuner on board and a non-tuner. If they're on the field, you can send both of them to the graveyard, then take a synchro monster from your extra deck and place it on the field, as long as the level of the two monsters, or technically more because you can have multiple non-tuners. In a vacuum, this is already getting really complicated. The point is, for the monsters you sent, the synchro that you summon has to match their combined total levels. So if you have a level 4 tuner and a level 4 non-tuner, you send them both to the graveyard, you have to take a level 8 synchro monster from your extra deck and summon it. If you have a level 4 tuner, a level 2 non-tuner, and another level 2 non-tuner, you can send all three of them to the grave to get that level 8, or you can send the level 4 tuner and one level 2 non-tuner to make a level 6 synchro. So that's your basics. Number 2, High Speed Droid Kite Drake has a little bar there that specifies the tuner has to be a wind machine. So everything I just said, you just have to make sure that that tuner has the wind attribute and is a machine monster, and that's how you make High Speed Droid Kite Drake. Enjoy blasting your opponent's entire field. What story are you hoping for in Photon Hypernova? Conclusion, more hype boss monsters. Well, Photon Hypernova has unfortunately largely concluded, so I think we're going to be getting the conclusion in, what is it, Cyber Access Storm is the one afterwards. That will, I am 100% sure, is going to be the end of the Albaz storyline, and we're going to find a different one. It's going to be wild if they find a way to push this even further. As far as boss monsters go, of course there's gonna be cool like Albaz fusions, but I can't deign to think what those might look like. The new Lindworm, the Gunhammer Dragon, I didn't see that coming from a mile away. So I'm looking to be pleasantly surprised. But it has come to my attention recently, thanks to Scarlon, that there are so many similarities between what's happening here and the Book of Revelations that really, the Bible is a spoiler. So if you want to learn more information about what's going on, just ask your friend Jesus. Jesus knows what's going on. What mechanic would you steal from another card game and give to Yu-Gi-Oh? I guess I've talked about this a few times, and I don't know if this counts as like a mechanic. It's more like a keyword. But I couldn't think of like a mechanic like mulliganing in another card game that wouldn't immediately be broken in Yu-Gi-Oh! So I'm going with Living Weapon. I think the idea of, we already have equip spells that you can play without actually equipping to a monster immediately, like Premature Burial is a good example. You play it, you summon the monster, and it gets equipped to them. So why not have an equip spell that you play it, make a token, and attach it to that? I think Living Weapon would make a really cool archetype for Yu-Gi-Oh! Let's make it happen. Which Yu-Gi-Oh! Archetype do you turn into a prestige TV series or movie? Spirals. It's already got spy stuff. It's an easy shoe-in. Lots of characters. There's betrayal. There's cute dudes. I'm down. How do you profit from being a full-time YouTuber? Okay, well, the main way that, of course I can't speak for everyone, but the main way that I make money right now is ad revenue. That's right. Every time you sit through a video and every time you watch through those ads, a fraction of a cent is added to my pool, and over the course of several thousand views over the course of a month, that comes out to, at the moment, it's about $1,500. So that shows up in my bank account every month, and that's generally what I do. There's also Patreon, which has been very helpful. If people want early access, for a few extra dollars, they get that. And I will tell you that anyone who donates to the Patreon every month is doing more than like thousands of views by themselves. You pledge $5, it's huge. It's a huge amount off my shoulders. It's like an extra, yeah, like 1,000 views for every person that shows up there, effectively, when it comes to like what I would be paid out. So it's huge. It means a lot. There's also like Twitch, which hopefully might one day be profitable, but right now I haven't really made a big enough impact to accumulate people giving bits and subs at a large rate right now. So that would be the third way to make it. The fourth is sponsorships. If you get enough attention, companies will want to get in front of people and have you put their product in front of them. It's difficult, though, at least for me. I don't have a seller's mindset when it comes to that, so my ability is very low. Other people are probably a lot better at it, especially in the age of the internet, where things need to be a lot more snappy than I usually am. And also, people are very, very resistant to sponsorships. People do not like it when you break up a video and say, hey, here I'm going to talk about a snack box, or I'm going to talk about some shirts, that kind of stuff. Not a knock, of course. I mean, some people already like pay for YouTube Premium to skip all of the ads on the platform, and now there's more ads in the video that like you can't do anything about except skip. Well, I mean, it's kind of hard to blame people for that, for not wanting to sit through that. So those are like the 4 ways that I do it. There might be other ways to like monetize as well, but that's kind of the basics. What politics go in about making a YugiTube channel? Okay, well, this is something that not a lot of people talk about, because a lot of people feel like Yu-Gi-Oh! And politics are completely separated from one another, and that could not be farther from the case. Example, all of the harassment that happens around women and trans people in this community. That is an inherently political situation. It is stochastic violence against a group of people, and they're minorities, so there's a power group in place. So you kind of have to keep those things in mind when you have an audience. In everything, of course, but, YugiTubing is one of those zones where a lot of people have a lot of distasteful memes, and if you don't point that out and say, hey, that's transphobic, or that's misogynist, or that's racist and all of that, it will allow that to expand. People will do more of it, and that will cause harm to people in those communities who are the target of those jokes, who are the butt of those. And then it's not just jokes, it's actual outright misgendering on purpose, just to get under people's skin, just to trigger dysphoria. It sucks. A lot of people will say, oh, well, my audience doesn't just hang off of every word that I say. I'm just a guy on the internet. And I would say that that is true. Not everyone in your audience is a little programmable computer that you put stuff into and they immediately do what you say. That's not how people work. But audiences are not monoliths. They are a gradient. And while on one end there are people who, don't see you as an icon or someone to, take inspiration from, the other end of the spectrum is going to be people who see you as like the big shit. You are to be paid attention to. You have influence over them. And then right down from there are people who don't see you as like the biggest deal, but still respect you for who you are, and your words might influence them in some way. There's a lot of people, when you have a platform, there's a lot of people who will listen to what you say and will take away what acceptable behavior is, or what are the things that I can do in this community that I will repeat elsewhere. Now, I don't have tabs on who allows this or disallows this. I'm not here making a statement on that one. But it does go to show, or it does exemplify, when I hear people say like, oh, well, I did X, Y, and Z for the algorithm, or I did this because it played well with my audience, as an excuse for bad behavior or like misguided actions. I don't accept that as excuses for anything. Because then you're just feeding into that bad behavior. You are entrenching it even more. Sometimes you just have to take the L and realize that some behavior isn't going to play well with an audience, but it's the right thing to do. Or it's not going to play well with the algorithm, but you refuse to feed the whatever dumpster fire is going on at the time that might be, you might not be specifically trying to exacerbate, but by playing by the algorithm's rules, sometimes you make inflammatory titles to get people's attention, that put it in their head, put certain ideas in people's heads to get them to click things. Basically, if you have an audience, you have a responsibility to that audience and everyone outside of that audience to make sure that you are being a responsible member of your community. Encourage people to practice inclusiveness and compassion and empathy, all that kind of stuff. It's very important. And people who don't do that and everything is just haha joke, I don't respect them, and I think they suck. But I don't have like a ledger of who does or doesn't do that. So that's not like a subtweet on anyone. But if you do that, I don't like you. Favorite dual terminal archetype? It's X-Sabers, baby. I love the swords. Ace Monster. You know, a year ago, I might have said like a desk bot or like a Boojin or something, but ever since progression polls, it's Trihorn Dragon. I love that. I love that dragon. I love him. Favorite Ninja Turtle and version of the Ninja Turtles? I don't actually watch a lot of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I would say I don't watch any of it. I've probably played the arcade game more than I've actually ever watched the show. That being said, Michelangelo and, I don't know, the new one, it looks really rad from the clips that I've seen. What do you want your brand to be and be known for? Ooh, actually, yeah, I'm pretty solid on what I want to be for that one. I want to be the educator in the community. Not like, you know, the person with the most high-level competitive knowledge. There's lots of people who know how to play this game better than I do, and I'm not looking to, you know, steal their thunder, at least not at the moment, maybe one day. But now I feel like out of everyone on the platform, I have the best way of framing and presenting information about archetypes. I think that's my niche. While some people might know how to play the game well, I don't know if everyone is a good teacher, at least when it comes to like the fundamentals of like formatting information and how to share it with the most amount of people in the most effective way possible. I think that's my niche, and I would like to be known as an educator in that regard. Kind of like a cool high school teacher, not a university professor. And of course, lore. I want to be known as the lore guy. While there have been people who have done it, Blazing Guns, I miss that they do those. Those were really cool when I was getting started on doing those. They gave me a lot of confidence. I miss Yugi-mations. Those are really cool. But aside from that, I don't know anyone in like the English Yugi-tubing sphere that really takes the time to talk about lore in the long term, you know, like get into it, making theories, talking about stuff. I think that's like my niche. So that's kind of what I want to be known for. Educator and a lore person, kind of little lore master energy going on. That's what I would like. Of course, I'd have to do more lore to be known as that, but that means I'd have to put more effort into that, and who knows when that will happen. Unique thoughts, opinions on the anime. Favorite protag? I have no thoughts on the anime or anything that no one else has had. Go watch Noah Jenk's videos. He's got really, really good video essays about the anime. Yeah, and go check out his Discord because there's a lot of like unlisted videos he can't show anymore. So go to his YouTube channel, go to his Discord, watch his videos. That's where you can find that kind of stuff. Favorite protag though? Yuya Sakaki. I love the theater kid energy. What can I say? What is the lesbian archetype? Difficult question to fathom for me as an outsider on that one, but I would say that the most lesbian archetype would be the Exo Sisters, but I'm open to critiques on that one. The necessary evil cards of Yu-Gi-Oh! Hand traps, I guess. Not floodgate hand traps, those go too far, but things like Ash Blossom, things like Ghost Bell, those are what I would consider fair hand traps. They are one-for-one interactions that can be used whenever you are going second, so that you can stop someone from just comboing off going first, which I feel like is, in a game that allows for so much powerful combos, hand traps are what is needed to keep those things in check during a time where player 2 can do nothing. Of course, what makes it evil is that the person going first can use hand traps to solidify their board state, and that gets exacerbated when you have things like Artifact Lancia or D-Shifter, stuff like that. That really sucks. Maxi the big, how did I miss Maxi? But those big lingering floodgate cards, Droll and Lockbird is another big example. Those things are way too much. But having 1-for-1 hand traps that deal with certain like cards are the necessary evil, and it kind of sucks when the person ahead can still use them to maintain a lead, as opposed to using them as to keep the other person in check. But I think we need to have at least some of those around so that the person going second has a chance to get into the game. Most/least favorite video you've made. Once again, I don't know what my least favorite video is aside from, Security Force. Most favorite video I've made, there's so many different reasons for it. Like, the Metal Foes and the Sulfachord one has a musical number in them, which I thought those were really fun to make. I liked those. But my favorite ones are the lore ones, and my favorite one out of all those ones would be the latest History of Duel Terminal. I think a lot more effort went into that than all the other ones. There was the dialogue scenes. I got Bumbles McFumbles to be a Rookwazos. I think it was a really good scene. The comments gave me a really good reaction about those. It was really cool. It's probably the one that I'm most proud of so far. What music do you listen to? God, I'm boring about that. Just whatever. I run into stuff on like Twitter or YouTube and stuff like that, and then I'll play it on repeat for like 1,000 times till I'll get tired of it. Then I'll find something else. That kind of stuff. What flaws in Yu-Gi-Oh could be solved? Well, if we were talking about like in general, the communication problem with the player base would be a huge one. Insofar as like the game itself, that's rough. So I think the thing that most players complain about is just not getting to play the game, right? Whether it be the powerful floodgate hand traps that I talked about earlier, legit floodgates like Skill Drain, and there can be only one in Rivalry, to just big gigantic negate boards. Now sometimes, we run into formats where those are not as much of an issue. If floodgates or a million interactions are based in monsters, well, they printed Dark Ruler No More for that, which, as far as I can tell, is now the most fair out of all of the gold sarcophagus tin promos that they made, which is, well, again, I always felt D-Shifter was going to be the one that fit that description, but lo and behold, D-Shifter is probably the most unfair one right now. I think, what people most have an issue with is that decks just build a bunch of ways to keep your opponent from playing the game. They're not built of like interactions. Like, I think it's more interesting to break a board that is full of things like DPEs or Dridents or things with quick effect negation, like not like activation negation, but like effect negation, like Hot Red Dragon Archfiend Abyss, something like that. I think those boards are more fun than things that are just like a bunch of solemn judgments that you can do to just like completely answer anything. The problem now would be getting rid of a lot of those cards, and that's a lot of banning. And then we have to introduce more cards that are just like kind of good, like tempo-wise, that are like good at removing cards and manipulating field stuff without making a whole bunch of new Omni-Negates. That is what I think is the closest way to fix that. Another way might be to start banning a bunch of the really generic versions of super powerful boss monsters. The old adage of every deck is an OTK deck if they can spit out enough material and then go into Boral Sword or Access Code. That still holds true, so you'd have to ban all of those and then make newer versions that are archetype specific, or at least a lot more restricted than they are now. I don't want erratas. Erratas suck. Just ban the old one, print the new one. For heaven's sakes, you still make money by selling the new version of it. It's a bit more blatantly like, oh, we're going to make money, but at least the old cards still maintain functionality and don't cause confusion when being used in alt formats. Please just make new versions of those cards. How do you like your sandwich bread? Well, I guess that depends on the sandwich. I'm not going to have, like, I don't know, tuna on regular bread. That's got to be toasted. Tuna needs to have a strong basis under it for the crunch value. But if I'm doing peanut butter and jelly, I don't want to spread any of that on toast. That needs to just be bread. Have you considered playing Card Fight Vanguard? I Not long term, though I did enjoy the times that I played it with Jello. More links if I can. I don't know if I can post any more links at this point. We're very much into the video, long time. But I'll link to his channel. I had a lot of fun playing with him in JC Theater Yu-Gi-Oh on doing Cardfight Vanguard. It's a cool system. I think one of the things we have to grapple with is that some people won't be into. I'll talk about me, and then we'll see if that relates to anyone else. I have a deep connection with Yu-Gi-Oh because I grew up on it and it's locked in my brain. It's kind of the reason why I'm also loving the new Digimon game. I want to give that, real estate in my mind because I like Digimon and the card game itself is very well put together. Cardfight Vanguard is something that I don't have any kind of emotional connection with, so I don't like when a new card comes out or like a new set is released. I don't have like the drive to keep up with all of that. So if things I'm not going to say no. If things change in the future, I could at some point enjoy me a little stand-up, attack, critical trigger, all kinds of stuff. But for now, I don't see myself playing a lot of Vanguard. But if you like Vanguard, definitely go check out Jello. He loves that stuff to death, and it's really fun, so give him all your support. When did you meet Delilah? So, the card shop that I talked about previously in the video, Delilah showed up while I was doing judging stuff, and she thought I was cool, and then we started hanging out. I was very lucky that I got to meet her. Delilah probably tells the story better than I do, so if she wants to share in the comments, please feel free to go ahead. But yeah, I was apparently one of the tolerable dudes in the room that she could talk to, and it is so sad that the bar was a guy who was just not annoying to talk Yu-Gi-Oh with. Local card shops need more people that are there just to look out for creeps and to just get them in line. I swear. And it's not just me. I've seen the stories on Twitter. It just happens everywhere. We got to step it up, folks, at the local game stores. We got to step it up. What was your job before quitting? I worked in telemedicine. Not like a hoity. I don't have medical training. It wasn't that important. We were in the data entry customer service side is where I worked. We would essentially take people's information, sort it all out correctly, make sure it was filled out as it needed to be, get it plugged into our database, and sent over to our actual pharmacists who took it from there. So we were like the we were just the greeters, essentially. We were making sure everything checked out before the actual process got started. It was really good. We worked in once again, to avoid dogs, I'm not going to talk specifics right here. But yeah, we helped people get signed up for the process. I felt really good about it because we were doing really good work. But let's just say that company culture changes over time, and it made the decision to do YouTube full-time a lot easier. What deserves to be meta, Spirits or Gemini? It's gotta be Spirits. Gemini, I love you to death, I really do, but Spirits are much closer to having competitively viable effects between, a Mono Awato and the Baron and Baroness Peacocks to fight meta than Geminis do. You just don't have it in you, so Spirits are more than likely going to be meta before Geminis are. What franchise from things like TV or video games do you think should be incorporated into Yu-Gi-Oh, and how would it work? Well, I'm very biased, but I love Legends of the Dragoon. I love them so much. You would have your normal, fighters in the main deck, and you would have equip cards that are their Dragoon spirits. You can equip any Dragoon spirit to any of the warriors and then summon the associated Dragoon from the extra deck based on the Dragoon spirit, because that's the armor or something. And if you have the equipment on the game appropriate warrior, you get an extra effect when that monster is special summoned from the extra deck. That's how it would work out. Genius design. Equip cards have always been the strongest in the game. 10 out of 10. Tier 0 threat. Next question. Favorite sandwich and favorite dessert? I do love me a good roast beef. And for that one, those need bolio rolls. You can do a regular bread if you want. But bolio rolls are where it's at for roast beef sandwiches. Favorite dessert? How can I choose? How can I choose? There's spice cake. Spice cake is delicious. Chocolate cake is really good. Ice creams of various shapes and sizes. Though I will say the thing that I have not had in a while because they discontinued it is pumpkin pie gelato. I forget the brand. I think it's Talenti or something. They had pumpkin pie gelato a few years back, like 3 or 4. Absolutely delicious. Had to pick it up at the store. They stopped doing that. And then they made a new version of it, but instead of putting all of the pie crust pieces intermixed in a solid block of pumpkin pie gelato, they layered it. So there was like some pumpkin-y thing, this weird pumpkin spice goo, and then a full layer of just like the pie crust things and they were like perfect little spheres too, which was really weird. And I'll tell you, like the idea might be to like mix it together, to get it all together, but this isn't ice cream, okay? You can't just take chocolate chip sprinkles and stir your spoon around and get it all together. Gelato does not mix like that, okay? It ruins the experience. And separating all the materials out ruined that. And guess what? Apparently that didn't sell very well, because now not even that is making it on the store shelves. We're in the middle of October. It should be available now. I haven't seen hide nor hair of it for years. Talenti, if you are watching it, I would love to sponsor your gelato. It's actually very delicious. Especially if, 2, you send me more of that pumpkin pie gelato. I need it! I need it! Are you happy? Boy, that is a philosophical answer for the ages. I suppose. I mean, there's things that I want to do. I still have a drive. I'm not satisfied with where I'm at right now. So if that's the definition we're going by, I guess no. But like, I'm glad I landed this job over the ones I could be doing right now. Yugi tubing is something I've wanted to do since like high school. There's an old ass channel out there with my first attempts, and they were bad. But boy, did I want to do this more than I wanted to cashier at places. Favorite moment from progression polls. Okay, I don't have anything off the top of my head right now, but keep an eye out for the No Context Progression Polls Twitter account coming soon, where you'll find all your favorite progression polls moments. And if you have any in the comments, please let me know. We're on episode like 44 or something right now, so my brain does not hold a lot of even the most important memories of that one. But doing the live stream episode as Kaiba, that was pretty fun. Ever have a Leroy Jenkins moment work out for you? Once again, my memory is really terrible, so maybe I've had a point where I've gone all in and it worked. Sometime, I'm sure there's like 1 or 2 Master Duel moments where you take the Max C challenge and it absolutely pays off for you. One of the stupidest decisions I've made, though, which I still think is in the is in contention for that, was playing the Dante fusion monster and the fusion spell before Beatrice came out. I felt like it was a strong card in the mirror match because it became immune to like Karma Cut, Phoenix Wing Wind Blast, opposing Farfas, Alix, all that kind of stuff. So I'm like, if I can pull this off, this card is going to be nutty. There's no way they're going to be able to get by it. And it gives it 800 extra attack, so it can run over bigger things. And it worked out exactly I summoned it 1 time for 1 game, and I lost the match. So, I still think I actually got my invite at that regional. I think it's like the only invite I've ever gotten. So I don't know if that counts as working out, but I did do it. Best lore, and why is it Sangans? No, yeah, I totally agree. Moki Moki has such like a deep and layered lore across a whole bunch of Upstart Goblin cards. You have to really wonder like what the true nature of the Moki Moki is. Like, does the Dark Factory unleash what was inside the Moki Mokis all along? Or is that something that they trained into them through the Dark Factory's machinations? Who knows? Why the hate for Altergeists? I am repeatedly tired of having to deal with Sulquidius all the time. It is so frustrating to have that and Multi-Faker triggering all the goddamn time, and that revival trap card that they can do silly things with the Sulquidius to get free monsters and then you think you finish them off, you think you've got a leg up, and then the centaur shows up, conkle, conkle, wonkle, bonkle, stops you, effects negated, have the extra turn. Oh, look, multi-faker's back and they've reestablished the entire thing. I hate that matchup. I hate it from the bottom of my bones. Challenges you might have faced with relying on people for income. That's a great question. That's one of the things you have to grapple with. So, and it's something that you have to kind of come to terms with. Like I said at the very beginning of the video, out of the 37,000 people who have subscribed to the channel, out of the thousands of people who watch the videos every time they go up, 50 of them have decided that it's worth it to pay out of pocket to help make this work. Of course, the people who watch the videos are still contributing in some way. Their watch time and their views are contributing to your video being seen far and wide, and them liking it and commenting does help with that. They're still contributing by watching your videos, but it's actually the money that will make sure that you can keep doing it. People actually giving you money, and it might be me, but I think a lot of us will. I think a lot of people in the YugiTubing sphere who are not like at the upper echelons will at some point have the existential thought and the frustration that so many people watch your stuff and they won't just put a couple dollars in your pocket every month to help you like live, essentially. The people won't sit through like a call to action and listen to what you need their help with and then do it. Like, for instance, if every subscriber to my channel right now gave me $1, and if I set aside half of that for taxes, even after that, that's like $13,000 a month. If everyone gave a little bit, I could be beyond comfortable. But not everyone is able to do that because we live in a world that has strapped people for cash. A million different subscription services are asking them for their money. And for a person on the internet who's already giving them free content to get through the day, they can't spare that because there's things they have to actually, like, you know, pay to live with. And then if it's between you, the YouTuber who is going to give you the content anyway, and like Netflix or Crunchyroll that's going to withhold that stuff, what's the value proposition, right? You have to come to terms with the fact that even the people who do have the money to support you just won't. They either won't think about it, they don't care, they don't think that you don't deserve it, all that kind of stuff. You're gonna have to live with the fact that even those people are important because they're watching your stuff, and that you will hopefully one day find an amount of people that will provide money to you directly to help make sure that you are not beholden to the algorithm for ad revenue. In a perfect world, a lot more people would be willing to and have the ability and the understanding to do that. If a lot of us got our income from our fans directly, we wouldn't have to worry about videos that, you know, got to 10,000 views in a couple of days or stuff like that. So one of the challenges is living with the fact that you're going to reach out into the void, ask for help, and a very small sliver of people will be willing and able to reach out in return. And it sucks. It can feel really bad. It can feel so easy, like if your audience put in just a little extra work, you wouldn't have to, you know, keep up a wild schedule every week just to stay above surface. But the people on the other end of the screen are people who live complex lives, who are probably suffering from a lot of the same issues you are too, and they just don't have the capacity to help out. So the best you can do is try to understand that, continue giving to them, and if they ever get to a good point where they have some extra money to spend, maybe they'll remember you and they will pay it back to you. When Harpy Lady video, One of these Valentine's days when I'm on top of my stuff. I think that's a good time. I think that is a anime appropriate time to make a Harpy Lady video. If you were in Yu-Gi-Oh! R&D, what would be the first thing you'd do? Well, R&D isn't the social media platform, so I can't do the communicate with players thing. I don't know. I would make sure that short prints don't exist anymore. I'd find a way to get those out of side sets. I hate it when they announce that they're reprinting a chase card that was hard to get in a previous set, and then they just make it a short print again. So it's just like, yeah, technically you have a chance, but they're marketing it as a way to get a hold of that card easily when it's not gonna happen. If it's like a card design thing, we stop making new archetypes and we start making legacy support for older archetypes. We start bringing all the old ones up to code. A lot of them will be difficult to salvage because they are based on mechanics that are from 2006, but by golly, I'd like to try. What monster would you like to see expanded into an archetype? Try Horned Dragon. Get my boy into a theme. You see that flavor text, unworthy dragon? Let's get him to be a worthy dragon. Let's get his self-esteem up. If Blue Eyes and Red Eyes can have a whole archetype based on them, my boy Trihorn can get a theme. The custom channel on the Discord has done plenty. Let's get it canon. Come on, folks. Top 10 favorite decks and archetypes. If this video gets 10,000 likes, I'll make the top 10 favorite decks and archetypes video. It's been a while since we did a top 10. So yeah, there we go. And I'm putting it unreasonably because I don't expect it to happen, but if you can do it, I'll keep to it. I'll do it. But that's a whole video in and of itself. I do not think I'm going to be saying that right now. Biggest win and biggest loss since going full-time. I think that is one and the same, actually. And that's Master Duel. And this is probably going to come off a little complainy, but when Master Duel dropped, and I don't know what anyone else's experiences with it was on their end for Yu-Gi-Oh creating, but for me, it was a rocket ship. Like, my growth spiked. For like 2 or 3 months afterwards, I was seeing 100 subscribers a day, consistently. And I was in a relatively good spot. Of course, the established big names were getting a huge boost because they were the big names, but I was in a unique position of having a bunch of different videos specifically about certain archetypes that people could sit down, learn about, and figure out how to play them. I think that contributed to a lot. I think Sky Striker was one of the biggest performing videos at the time, and that video was months old at the time, so it was enormous. And because it held for so many months, I thought that that was the new normal. I was making projections till the end of the year. At the time, it was a certainty that I was going to make it to 50,000 subscribers by the end of the year. Easy, clear. Get most of the way to 100,000 by the end of 2023, and then 2024 was going to be the year of 100,000 subscriber Nova. That was the idea. And then Master Duel started to cool off, and my channel, I wouldn't say did bad. We've settled in a pretty nice place. I'm at about half, 50 subscribers a day is certainly nothing to sneeze at, but that has caused, admittedly, a lot of disappointment and self-resentment, right? Like, I feel like I failed myself. A big wave happened. I caught it for a while, and I fell off. I wasn't able to keep with it. And now I'm not going to be as successful in one of my goals as I wanted to be at the end of the year. So I've been trying my best to try and get to that level of growth ever since Master Duel cooled off. But I think a takeaway from that is to try and remember that there's a lot of things outside of your control as a creator on a platform that you are not responsible for. I don't think I just inherently got that growth for no reason. It was Master Duel. It was because a lot more names were, a lot more eyeballs were out there looking for stuff. And while I put in the work to be there to get that boost when it happened, I can't control the popularity of Master Duel. It's not within my abilities as a creator. So learning to readjust my expectations and not place that on my own shoulders has been a big learning experience. But as like a loss way, like a big mental health hit, Master Duel was a huge boon and then a huge bane afterwards. And I feel like it's like really whiny to say about it. It's like, oh boy, it must be so bad that you got so much success. But like, I think there's those tales of people who hit like huge virality out of nowhere and they don't know how to like deal with continuing to like keep up that level of engagement and then feeling really bad for not holding to that. Clearly I didn't become a viral sensation overnight because of it, but it was a huge, like, it set my bar really, really high. And I've been continuing to fail to hit that bar for months now. And that can really hurt. But learning that the bar was set by something I have no control over, a bar that technically I set in the first place based on data in the past, it's helped like it's helped put me in a better space. So, yeah. Least favorite archetype art-wise, gotta be Drytron. The ritual monsters look fantastic. The Xyz is so cool. They're regular monsters. A lot of them, I can barely tell what's going on. Those things are a mess. Please fix them. What games do you enjoy when you're able to find time away from Yu-Gi-Oh? I'm a big RPG guy. I love me a good narrative, story-driven RPG with a lot of crunch to it, a lot of flavor. So that's my biggie. I'd love to sit down and play some RPGs when I don't have, whenever I don't have to play Yu-Gi-Oh stuff. Most beneficial effect for the beginning, middle, and end of a duel. Well, searching and finding your cards at the beginning of the duel seems more appropriate. That kind of stuff can be helpful during the mid and end game, but at the beginning you want to solidify your game plan. So searching at the beginning, pretty good. Board breaking is also super important if you're going second, and is more important during the mid game though. If games go long, you want board breakers to open a way through, and then during the end, things that close out games, things that do a ton of damage, or put up so many negates during a simplified board state that your opponent will have no way of getting out of it, at which case you will proceed to do game damage later. Do you think you could eat 40 eggs in one sitting? They'd have to be scrambled, and I'd like to try. Can Heavy Storm come off the list? No. Could Gate Guardian be an archetype? Yes. What archetype from the anime do you want printed? Cloth armor! Give us cloth armor! It's been years! You printed Ge, make the cloth armor! You printed Iatos, give me the cloth armor! Least favorite Yu-Gi-Oh anime? I don't really watch a lot of the anime, so I don't have a lot of good like takes on that one. Grew up with base Yu-Gi-Oh, so I guess that's my favorite one. And my least favorite is, I haven't watched enough of it to really care. I guess if I had to pick one, no, I'm not even going to pick one because I haven't even finished any of the series, so I'm not going to say I like one least when I haven't sat down and really absorbed an entire series. Which summoning method do you dislike the most? I've got to say rituals for the fact that they're fun to play. This is disliked the most. I still like them. The issue is that if they ever get good, they end up being overbearing because of the overtunement that has to be done to make them competitively viable. So it's rituals, but it's not rituals' fault. Favorite duel in the series? Once again, not a big anime watcher, but I grew up on DM, so the classic Yugi versus Kaiba at the Parapets. Man, that was a Star Trek line if I ever heard one. Where do you get your theories on archetypes? I assume when you say theories you mean lore. If you're talking about like theories about deck building or like learning and discuss like getting the information about them, I just kind of use my own intuition and then I kind of absorb what I can around me so I can get as much outside information as possible. For like archetype lore stuff, largely it comes from card art and like how the mechanics work, because mechanics are very good to look at if you're looking for like ways to explain interconnections between cards. Because if it's done well, it should be a good reflection on the story going on. If it's like established lore, there are some printed materials you can find on places like Wikipedia or YugiWikia that have translated versions of like the lore books from Japan. And that's where a lot of like the bones for like the Duel Terminal series comes from. I do a lot of like creative writing exercises in there to flesh things out, because if I just read the lore books by themselves, it would be such a snore. And there's so much just like, and then this happened. And then a bad thing happened after that. And then the heroes found a way to stop that. But then it turns out a bad thing happened anyway. It's terrible. Why haven't you covered Red Eyes or Blue Eyes? I mean, I'll get to it eventually. But Red Eyes and Blue Eyes are pretty big. A lot of these things I tend to save for, like, if I can leverage them for a special occasion, you know, a charity drive, or I'm trying to raise money for something, and, you know, if we get to a certain goal, I'll do X, that kind of stuff. Favorite cute archetype and cutest from that archetype? Oh, this is probably recency bias, but at the moment, Puri is it's so cute. I love those little things. And which one, the best one is, the chubby one. The one that you get from Delicious. I love that one. That one's so cuddly. I want that one. Normal summon Alistair or normal summon Stratos? Alistair. Duh. You get Invocation. Have you seen the new Invocation? Would you consider me your #1 fan? Yeah, Delilah. Of course. You've been, like, one of my biggest supporters since, like, the Vampire Explained days. Even before that, you pushed me to leverage my talents to make this right now. You helped make sure I get the equipment I need, and still loved me even when I started breaking the stuff that you let me borrow. Yeah, I think that goes without saying. And that's all I got. Thank you all so much for sending all of those questions. I hope you had a couple of chuckles. I hope you found any of it insightful towards your quest towards Yugi-tubing. And that it was, you know, listenable, I guess. It's been a wild year, these past 12 months. There's been challenges, there's been limitations to what I could do. I've gotten a lot of new opportunities, and I've met a lot of cool new people. And I'm hoping that the next year is full of twice as much fun activities as that. So yeah, this is the part of the video where I ask you if you enjoyed what I do and you want to see the channel flourish and grow, or at the very least, make sure that everything stays stable here at the Orbital platform. Links are down below to the Patreon. You get a whole bunch of cool stuff, as stated earlier. If you found the channel to be helpful in any way, I'm gonna practice the whole art of asking thing. To please consider going to the link. Pledging at any level helps me out. Helps add some stability to my life as a independent content creator, and I am going to spend some time to thank all the people who are currently on the Patreon right now. So, big thank you to this month's illustrious Quasar Commander, Harry, the Ominous Benefactor, Nebula Navigators, Third Dynasty, Adam Zajdel, Avi Chali, Kane Senpai, Cameron Berg, Corbinisms, Eric, Frankie, Genesis Yu-Gi-Oh!, Gloomba 331, Great Big Pillock, Howling Zangetsu, Ironic, John Manji, Julius Sneezer, Larakia, Meteornus, Mighty Action X, Muzuki Clark, Neo Trinity, Panther J, Rebel King Lucifer, Rem T Bright, RJ the Jank Monarch, Ruxith Sarani, Sophie, apparently, The Fresh Prince of Con Air, The Wizard Moose, True Neutral, Xander Wolfensberger and Zyrus, Cosmic Crusaders, Bear Sharktopus Studios, Chaz Ghost, Emily, Eva Padilla, Inblink, Jesus Garcia, KL, Kale the Dragon, King Scarlet Yu-Gi-Oh!, Lord Whoop-De-Doo, Manga Pages, Marion James E. Picata, Nitromo, Shooting Star 3300, Star-Lord 777, Tucker Ordogne, please DM me. I do not know if I got that right. I'm pretty sure I didn't. The Legendary Raven, and of course, all the lovely Starlight Explorers you see on screen now. I couldn't do any of this without their help. It really adds a level of, and I know I say this a bunch, but it really lends a level of stability that I just cannot get from YouTube, because it can decide to give and take money as it sees fit based on the seasons. So you really do a lot to make sure everything goes well here. I love answering any questions you have in the patrons only section of the Discord. I'm looking to try and do my best to add even more value to that. If you are a current patron or someone who's considering it, if there's anything else you would like to see me do for patrons, please let me know in the comments. And here's to another year, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.